I was lying on our kitchen floor, clutching my chest, gasping for air, convinced I was having a heart attack. The pain shot down my left arm like electricity, and my vision was going dark. I choked out the words, "Linda, help, call 911." But my wife of 30 years just stood there, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. She looked down at me, really looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Pure, cold annoyance. "Robert, I have brunch reservations in 20 minutes, she said flatly. "You're probably just having a panic attack. Take an aspirin. I'll be back later." Then she stepped over my body like I was a piece of furniture, grabbed her $12,000 Louboutin shoebox, and walked out. I heard her heels clicking away. I heard her car start. I heard her leave me there to die. And in that moment, struggling to breathe, I made a vow. If I survived this, she would regret every second of the last 30 years. My name is Robert Chen. This is how a pair of designer shoes destroyed my marriage, and how I made sure my wife paid for every step she took in them. Before I tell you exactly how I dismantled her perfect little world piece by piece, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you've ever felt invisible in your own home, and subscribe if you believe karma is real, because trust me, what comes next is the definition of poetic justice. For 3 decades, I thought I knew exactly what my marriage was. I thought I understood my wife, Linda. I thought our life together, the suburban house with the maple tree in the front yard, the 2 kids we raised, the quiet Sunday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles, was built on something real, something solid. I was wrong. Before I tell you how a $12,000 pair of custom Louboutins became the match that burned our entire world to the ground, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you've ever felt invisible in your own home, and subscribe if you believe actions have consequences, even when they take 30 years to arrive. It was a Tuesday morning in early September. The kind of morning where the air smells like cut grass and gasoline, where the neighborhood is still sleepy and the world feels manageable. I was in our garage, which had become my sanctuary over the years, not because I was hiding, at least that's what I told myself, but because it was the one place in the house where I could think clearly. I was refinishing an old walnut desk I'd found at an estate sale. The grain was beautiful, deep and rich, like dark honey. I had my hands covered in wood stain, my favorite flannel shirt rolled up to my elbows, and NPR playing softly from a paint-splattered radio on the workbench. This was peace. This was control. This was mine. Linda hadn't been down to the garage in months, maybe years. She used to come down when we were younger, back when we were renovating the house ourselves. Back when we were a team. She'd hand me tools, laugh at my jokes, steal kisses between coats of primer. But somewhere along the line, the garage became my space, and the rest of the house became hers. We existed in parallel universes under the same roof. That morning, though, she came downstairs. I heard her heels clicking on the concrete steps, sharp, deliberate heels. She was dressed like she was going to a charity luncheon. Cream-colored blazer, tailored slacks, pearls. Her hair was blown out perfectly, her makeup flawless. She looked like a woman who had somewhere important to be. "Robert," she said. Not "good morning" or "how are you," just my name. Flat, businesslike. I looked up from the desk. "Morning, Linda. You look nice. Going somewhere?" "Brunch with the girls," she said, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look at me. "I need the Amex." I wiped my hands on a rag. "The Amex? What happened to your card?" "I maxed it out last week," she said, still not looking up. "I need yours. just for today. Now, let me pause here and give you some context. Linda and I had separate credit cards. It wasn't because we didn't trust each other, or at least that's what I'd believed for years. It was just easier. I handled the mortgage, the utilities, the car payments. She handled groceries, household items, her personal spending. We've been doing it that way since the 90s. It worked. But over the last few years, I'd noticed her card getting maxed out more often. She'd casually mention it over dinner. Oh, the Nordstrom sale was insane this month, and I'd transfer money to cover it. I never asked questions. I trusted her. "Linda," I said, setting the rag down, "how did you max out a $15,000 limit in 1 week?" She sighed, the kind of sigh that said I was being unreasonable. "Robert, don't start. I bought a few things. It's fine. I'll pay you back." "A few things?" I asked. "What did you buy?" "Does it matter?" she snapped, finally looking at me. Her eyes were cold, annoyed. "I'm your wife. I shouldn't have to justify every purchase to you like I'm some kind of child." I felt a flicker of something in my chest. Not anger, not yet, but something uncomfortable, something I'd been ignoring for a long time. "I'm not saying you're a child," I said carefully. "I'm just asking what you spent $15,000 on in 7 days. She rolled her eyes. "Fine. Shoes. I bought shoes. Happy?" $15,000 on shoes? "They're custom Louboutins," she said, like that explained everything. "Hand-stitched, limited edition. Do you have any idea how rare these are?" I stared at her. "Linda, we've been talking about replacing the roof. The contractor said we need at least $20,000 to do it right. You spent almost that much on shoes?" She laughed, not a real laugh, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed off the concrete walls. "Oh, here we go. The roof. Always the roof. Robert, we've been about to fix the roof for 5 years. Maybe if you weren't so cheap, we'd have done it already." "I'm not cheap," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "I'm careful. There's a difference." "No, Robert," she said, stepping closer. "You're cheap. You've always been cheap. You drive a 15-year-old Camry. You buy your clothes at Costco. You clip coupons like we're living in the Great Depression. Meanwhile, I have to beg for every little thing I want." I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a hairline fracture in the foundation I thought was solid. "Beg?" I repeated. "Linda, I've given you everything. I've worked 60-hour weeks for 30 years. I put both kids through college without loans. I've never said no to you, not once." "You've given me a life," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Not a lifestyle. There's a difference, Robert. My friends, Karen, Susan, Michelle, they have husbands who understand that. They go to Napa. They go to the Hamptons. They have things. What do I have? A garage-dwelling husband who smells like wood stain." I stood there, staring at her, and for the first time in 30 years, I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. She wasn't the girl I'd met in college, the one who laughed at my terrible jokes and said she didn't care that I drove a beat-up Honda. She wasn't the woman who cried happy tears when I proposed with a ring I'd saved for 6 months to buy. This woman, this stranger, was looking at me like I was an obstacle, like I was the thing standing between her and the life she deserved. "Linda," I said quietly, "do you even love me anymore?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at me, her face unreadable, and then she shrugged. "I don't know, Robert. I honestly don't know." And then she turned and walked back up the stairs, her expensive heels clicking on every step, leaving me alone in the garage with the smell of wood stain and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I sat down on the workbench. I looked at my hands, calloused, stained, scarred from decades of hard work. I thought about the mortgage I'd paid every month for 28 years. I thought about the college tuition. I thought about the medical bills when she had her gallbladder removed. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made, every hour I'd worked, every dream I'd deferred. And I realized something. I realized that I'd been living with a woman who didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a provider, a wallet, a means to an end. And I was done. I stood up, walked to my workbench, and pulled out my laptop. I opened a browser and searched for one name, David Kleinman, divorce attorney. David was the best in the state. I'd met him years ago at a charity golf tournament. He was ruthless, brilliant, and expensive. And if Linda wanted to play games, I was going to make sure I had the best coach in the league. I dialed his number. "Kleinman Law," a receptionist answered. "I need to speak with David Kleinman. Tell him Robert Chen is calling. Tell him it's urgent." There was a pause, some clicking, and then David's voice came through, smooth and confident. "Robert, long time. What can I do for you?" "I need a divorce attorney," I said, "and I need one who doesn't lose." David chuckled. "You've come to the right place. When can you come in?" "Today. Right now." I didn't tell Linda where I was going. I didn't tell her anything. I just got in my Camry, the one she mocked, and drove to David's office downtown. It was in one of those glass towers that screamed money and power, the kind of building where the elevators smell like leather and ambition. David's office was on the 40th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and his desk was bigger than my garage workbench. He stood when I walked in, shook my hand firmly, and gestured to a chair. "Tell me everything," he said. And I did. I told him about the shoes. I told him about the maxed-out credit cards. I told him about the years of feeling invisible, of being treated like an ATM instead of a husband. I told him about the shrug, the moment she couldn't even pretend to care anymore. David listened, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "Robert," he said, "I'm going to be very direct with you. Your wife has been financially irresponsible, emotionally dismissive, and based on what you've told me, possibly hiding additional expenditures. In California, we're a community property state. That means everything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50. But here's the good news. We can fight for a favorable division based on her wasteful dissipation of marital assets." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," David said, "that if we can prove she spent marital funds recklessly on things that didn't benefit the marriage, we can argue that she owes you reimbursement. Those $12,000 shoes, that's dissipation. The maxed-out cards, dissipation. We document everything, and we make her pay it back." I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope that the marriage could be saved, I was past that, but hope that I wouldn't be destroyed in the process of ending it. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "First," David said, "we need records, bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, everything. Second, we file, fast, before she has time to hide assets or run up more debt in your name." I left David's office with a plan. I drove home, my mind clear for the first time in years. Linda's car was gone, still at brunch probably, so I had the house to myself. I went to the study, the room where we kept all our financial documents, and I started pulling files. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. I scanned everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud drive, and sent the link to David. I worked methodically, like I was assembling a piece of furniture, step by step, no emotion, just execution. And then I found something I wasn't expecting. Buried in a stack of old statements was a credit card I didn't recognize. It wasn't in my name, it wasn't a joint account. It was Linda's name only, issued by a bank I'd never heard of. The balance was $47,000. $47,000! I sat down hard in the desk chair, staring at the statement. The charges were recent, within the last 6 months. Designer stores, luxury hotels, high-end restaurants, and one charge that made my blood run cold. $8,500 to Prestige Companions, LLC. I Googled the name. It was an escort service. My hands were shaking as I took a photo of the statement and texted it to David. He replied within minutes. "David, this changes everything. Don't confront her. Let me handle it." But I couldn't just sit there. I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen it. I forwarded the statement to my email, printed a copy, and locked it in the safe in the garage. Then I went upstairs, poured myself a whiskey, and waited. Linda came home 2 hours later, laughing on the phone with someone. She breezed past me in the kitchen, still talking, and went upstairs to change. She didn't ask where I'd been. She didn't ask how my day was. She didn't even look at me. That night, we sat at opposite ends of the dining table, eating takeout in silence. I watched her scroll through her phone, smiling at something on the screen. She looked happy, unburdened, free. And I realized she'd been free for a long time. Free from guilt, free from accountability, free from me. "Linda," I said. She looked up, annoyed. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce." The fork fell from her hand, clattering onto her plate. "What did you just say?" she whispered. "I'm filing for divorce," I repeated, my voice steady. "I've already hired an attorney. You'll be served with papers in the next 48 hours. Her face went through a series of expressions: shock, anger, disbelief, before settling on something I didn't expect. Fear. "Robert, you can't be serious," she said, her voice rising. "We've been married for 30 years. You can't just leave." "I'm not leaving," I said. "You left a long time ago. I'm just making it official." She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is about the shoes, isn't it? You're divorcing me over shoes?" "No, Linda," I said, standing to face her. "I'm divorcing you because you don't respect me, because you've been lying to me, because you've been spending money we don't have on things you don't need, and because—" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of the credit card statement. "Because you've been paying for escorts." The color drained from her face. "That's not what it looks like," she stammered. "Then what is it?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "That's what I thought," I said. I picked up my jacket and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" she shouted after me. "Anywhere but here," I said, and I left. I drove to a hotel downtown, checked in, and collapsed onto the bed. For the first time in 30 years, I slept alone, and for the first time in 30 years, I slept soundly. The next morning, David called. "The papers are ready," he said. "We're serving her today. And Robert, based on that credit card statement, we're going scorched earth. She's not getting away with this." "Good," I said. And I meant it. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Linda hired her own attorney, a shark named Patricia Wells, who was known for bleeding men dry in court. But David was better. He was colder, he was smarter, and he had the evidence. Over the next 6 months, we uncovered the full extent of Linda's deception. The $47,000 credit card was just the beginning. There were 3 more secret accounts, totaling over $120,000 in debt. She'd been living a double life, funded entirely by our joint assets, while I worked myself to exhaustion thinking I was building a future for us. The escort service? It wasn't for her. It was for her boyfriend, a 35-year-old personal trainer named Derek, who she'd been seeing for 2 years. She'd been paying for his rent, his car, his gym membership. She even bought him a Rolex with my money. When we presented the evidence in court, the judge's face said it all. Linda tried to play the victim. She cried, she apologized, she claimed she'd made mistakes but still loved me. But the numbers didn't lie. The receipts didn't lie. And Derek, who we subpoenaed as a witness, didn't lie either. He testified that Linda had told him I was emotionally absent and that our marriage was already over. He said she'd promised him we were getting divorced and that she'd take care of him once the settlement came through. The judge was not amused. In the end, I got the house. I got my retirement accounts. I got the cars. Linda got her debt, all $120,000 of it, and a court order to reimburse me for half of what she'd stolen. She also got nothing from my future earnings, no alimony, and a restraining order after she showed up at my office screaming about how I'd ruined her life. Derek dumped her the day the judgment was finalized. Turns out he wasn't interested in a 56-year-old woman with 6-figure debt and no sugar daddy to pay her bills. I sold the house. Too many memories, too much pain. I bought a small cabin in the mountains, nothing fancy, just a place with a workshop and a view. I spend my days building furniture, hiking, and learning to cook. I'm dating again, casually, and I'm rediscovering who I am outside of being Linda's husband. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Linda. "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number. Some bridges are meant to be burned. My name is Robert Chen. I'm 58 years old, and I learned the hardest lesson a man can learn. You can't love someone into loving you back. You can't sacrifice yourself into being valued, and you can't fix a marriage when only one person is trying. Linda wanted a lifestyle. She got a life lesson instead. And me? I got my freedom. What do you think? Did Linda get what she deserved, or did I go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Your support means everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.